The ship was never supposed to crash. It was a long-range exploration vessel moving through a quiet stretch of space, carrying diplomats, scientists, and cultural representatives from many advanced alien civilizations. Humans were still new to this level of interstellar travel, and only a small section of the ship belonged to them. Most of the crew believed nothing interesting would happen on this journey. They were wrong. Without warning, space around the ship twisted. Sensors screamed as a strange cosmic storm appeared out of nowhere. It was not made of fire or lightning, but of bending gravity and unstable energy. Shields failed in seconds. Engines shut down one by one. Inside the human section, Ethan Cole was working alone. Ethan was not a famous officer or a powerful commander. He was a junior systems engineer, assigned to maintenance tasks that others did not want. He was quiet, average-looking, and often ignored during meetings. Still, he knew the ship well. He felt the vibration before the alarms even sounded. The floor shook violently. Red lights flashed. "Impact warning," the ship's voice announced. "All personnel brace." Ethan grabbed the nearest rail as the ship began to spin. Gravity failed. Tools floated into the air. The sound of tearing metal echoed through the halls. Then came the crash. The ship slammed into something solid. Everything went dark. When Ethan opened his eyes, pain spread through his body, but he was alive. Smoke filled the air. Emergency lights flickered weakly. The ship was silent except for distant creaks and burning wires. He forced himself to stand. "Anyone alive?" he shouted. No answer. Ethan activated his suit's emergency scanner. The ship was broken into several sections. Most life signs were gone. A few were still active, very few. He followed the signals through twisted corridors and collapsed walls. He crawled, climbed, and squeezed through gaps that were barely wide enough. At last, he reached a large open area where escape pods and observation chambers had once been. That was where he found them. 20 alien women lay scattered across the floor, some unconscious, some injured, some already waking in fear. They were from different species, tall, short, blue-skinned, silver-eyed, scaled, glowing, and winged. Many of them were considered rare and valuable in their cultures. They were diplomats, researchers, and representatives chosen for their intelligence and appearance. When they saw Ethan, their fear quickly turned into anger. "A human," one of them said sharply, her voice cold. "Why is a human here?" another demanded. "This is your fault," a tall alien with golden skin said. "Your kind's technology is unstable." Ethan raised his hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. "I don't know what caused the storm," he said calmly, "but the ship is down. We need to focus on survival." They did not listen. Voices rose. Accusations filled the air. Some of them tried to contact their people, but communication devices showed only static. The planet outside the broken hull was unfamiliar, with dark skies and strange light filtering through thick clouds. Ethan checked the hull breach. The atmosphere was breathable but unstable. Winds howled across rocky land. Tall, unfamiliar plants moved slowly, as if watching. "This planet was marked uninhabited," one alien said quietly, fear creeping into her voice. "Then the database was wrong," Ethan replied. One of the aliens suddenly collapsed. Her breathing became weak. Others froze in panic. Ethan moved without thinking. He knelt beside her, checking her pulse and suit seal. A cracked connector leaked air. He sealed it using a strip torn from his own gear, pressing firmly until her breathing steadied. "She will live," he said. The aliens watched him carefully now. Hours passed as Ethan helped the injured one by one. He reset broken medical devices, created simple splints, and stabilized power sources. He worked quietly, focused, and patient. Still, distrust remained. When night came, the temperature dropped fast. The broken ship provided little protection. The aliens had advanced technology, but much of it was damaged. Their tools were designed for comfort, not survival. Ethan stepped outside the wreck. The ground was rough but solid. The air smelled sharp but clean. Strange stars filled the sky. No signs of cities, no lights, no signals. They were alone. He returned and spoke clearly. "We can't stay inside the wreck," he said. "The structure is unstable. We need shelter." "And you expect us to follow you?" one alien asked. "No," Ethan replied honestly. "I expect you to survive." That answer surprised them. Using fallen metal panels and broken cargo containers, Ethan began building a simple shelter against a rock wall. He showed them how to stack pieces for wind protection. Some watched without helping. A few laughed quietly, thinking it was useless. Then a violent windstorm hit. Sand and sharp dust blasted across the crash site. The aliens screamed as debris flew everywhere. Those inside the wreck were thrown to the ground as part of the ceiling collapsed. Ethan's shelter held. He pulled injured aliens inside, shielding them with his own body when debris struck. The storm lasted hours. When it ended, the wrecked ship was nearly destroyed. Silence followed. The aliens looked at Ethan differently now. "He saved us," one whispered. Ethan sat against the rock, exhausted, blood on his forehead, but still alert. He checked the supplies they had recovered. Food was limited, water even more so. "This planet will test us," he said, "but we can live if we work together." A blue-skinned alien approached him carefully. "You are not afraid?" she asked. "I am," Ethan admitted. "But fear doesn't help if you freeze." She nodded slowly. As the strange sun rose over the alien horizon, casting pale light across the land, Ethan stood and looked outward. Somewhere beyond the clouds, the galaxy continued as normal. Here, on this forgotten planet, everything had changed. A quiet human engineer had become the only thing standing between 20 frightened aliens and extinction. And this was only the beginning. Morning on the planet did not feel gentle. The pale sun rose slowly, but its light carried a sharp heat that made the rocky ground warm within minutes. Ethan woke before the others, his body stiff from sleeping against stone. He listened carefully. The wind had changed. The planet made low, distant sounds, like something breathing far away. He stood and scanned the area. The wrecked ship was now nothing more than twisted metal and broken lights. Smoke no longer rose from it. Whatever could be saved had already been pulled out during the night. Beyond the crash site stretched a wide land of dark rocks, strange moving plants and tall cliffs in the distance. No animals could be seen yet, but Ethan knew that meant nothing. Behind him, the 20 alien women slowly woke. Some rubbed their eyes. Others checked their suits and devices again, hoping for a miracle. There was still no signal, no response from space, no sign of rescue. Fear returned. One of the aliens, tall and silver-haired, stood and looked around with disbelief. "This cannot be happening," she said. "Rescue teams should already be on the way." Ethan did not argue. He had learned long ago that hope without action could become dangerous. He focused on what mattered. "We need water," he said calmly. "Food comes after. Without water, nothing else matters." Several aliens looked at him, surprised by his firm tone. "And how would you know where to find it?" one asked. Ethan picked up a small scanner taken from the wreck. It was damaged but partly functional. "I don't," he said honestly. "So we search." They were not used to that answer. In their societies, problems were solved by systems, drones, or distant experts. Here, none of that existed. Only legs, hands, and time. They began moving out in small groups. Ethan insisted no one go alone. He paired stronger aliens with weaker ones and showed them how to mark their path using broken metal strips and stones. The land was harsh. The ground cracked under their feet. Strange plants released clouds of fine dust when touched. Some emitted light, others heat. One alien nearly collapsed when her suit reacted badly to the air. Ethan adjusted her filter manually, bypassing the damaged regulator. It was risky, but it worked. "You should not know how to do that," she said quietly. "I fix things," Ethan replied. "Even when they're not meant to be fixed." They found water near a deep rock formation where cool air flowed upward. It was not a river but moisture collected in stone pockets. Ethan tested it carefully, using basic chemical strips. It was safe enough after boiling. That was when the first creature appeared. It came from behind the rocks, low to the ground, with thick skin and too many eyes. It moved slowly, but its presence made the air feel heavy. The aliens froze. Some reached for weapons that no longer worked. Others stepped back in fear. Ethan moved forward instead. He raised his arms and made himself look larger. He picked up a rock and struck another stone, creating a loud, sharp noise. The creature stopped, confused. Ethan shouted. Not words, just sound. Raw, loud, human sound. The creature backed away, eyes blinking, then disappeared into the rocks. Silence followed. The aliens stared at Ethan. That was dangerous, one said. Yes, Ethan replied. But it worked. They returned to the shelter with water and growing respect. The day grew harder. The sun climbed higher and the heat became painful. Several aliens struggled. Their bodies were not built for endurance. Sweat, fatigue, and fear slowed them down. Ethan did not stop. He carried extra containers. He adjusted his pace. When someone stumbled, he supported them without complaint. By midday, dark clouds rolled across the sky. A storm was coming. They barely made it back to the shelter before the rain began. It was not normal rain. The drops were heavy and sharp, striking stone with force. Lightning flashed across the sky, purple and white. The shelter shook, but it held. Inside, the group sat close together. Some were shaking. Others stared silently at the ground. One alien finally spoke. She had soft, glowing skin and eyes filled with quiet intelligence. "You could have left us," she said to Ethan. "You move faster alone." Ethan looked at her, surprised by the question. "I don't survive alone very well," he said after a moment. "Humans learned that a long time ago." That answer stayed with them. That night, hunger set in. Their food supplies were designed for short emergencies, not long-term survival. Ethan examined the surrounding plants carefully. He tested samples, observed reactions, and compared them to known patterns. One plant, thick and slow-moving, produced a nutrient-rich liquid when heated. He showed the aliens how to extract it safely. Some were hesitant. Others trusted him now. They ate. It was not pleasant, but it was food. As days passed, the planet showed more of its true nature. Predators circled at night. Some were fast. Some were silent. Ethan built traps using simple physics and broken ship parts. He taught the aliens how to make noise barriers and light signals. Slowly, the group changed. The aliens who once argued now listened. They helped gather materials. They asked questions. They learned. Ethan noticed something else. Many of them had never done hard physical work before. Their societies valued intelligence and beauty, but relied on systems for protection and survival. Here, those advantages meant little. Human endurance meant everything. One night, a young alien panicked during a sudden ground tremor. She ran blindly into the dark. Without hesitation, Ethan followed. The ground split in places. Rocks fell from above. He found her frozen near a cliff edge, eyes wide with terror. "It's moving," she whispered. "The planet is angry." Ethan grabbed her hand firmly. "The planet doesn't care," he said. "That's worse, but we can still live on it." He guided her back step by step, shielding her when stones fell. When they returned, the others saw the scratches on his arms, the blood, the exhaustion. Something changed then. They no longer saw a weak human engineer. They saw a protector. By the end of the week, the shelter had grown stronger. Water was stored. Food was managed. Watch shifts were organized. Ethan sat alone one evening, staring at the strange stars. He missed Earth. He missed normal skies and quiet nights. But he did not allow regret to slow him. Behind him, the aliens spoke softly among themselves. "He does not rule us," one said, "yet we follow. He does not demand," another replied, "yet he gives." Ethan closed his eyes briefly. The planet was still dangerous. Rescue was still uncertain. Tomorrow would bring new threats, but one truth was clear now. On this uninhabited world, human survival instinct was no longer a theory. It was the reason they were all still alive. The planet did not allow comfort. By the second week, everyone understood that clearly. Each day brought new problems, and each night tested their nerves. The strange stars never moved the same way twice, and the ground itself seemed to shift under their feet, as if the world was alive and restless. Ethan woke before sunrise again. He had begun doing that without thinking. His body adjusted to danger the way it once adjusted to alarm clocks. He checked the perimeter traps first. 2 had been triggered, but nothing was caught. That worried him more than if something had been found. Predators were learning. He repaired the traps carefully, improving them with small changes. Nothing complex, just smarter placement, better angles, and patience. When he returned to the shelter, the others were already awake. They waited. That was new. At first they had acted separately, each following their own habits. Now they looked to Ethan before starting the day. Not because he ordered them to, but because when they followed his lead, they survived. "We'll move camp today," Ethan said calmly. Murmurs spread through the group. "This place protected us," one alien said. "Why leave?" "Because the ground beneath us is weakening," Ethan replied, "and predators already know where we sleep." He pointed to small cracks forming near the rock wall. They were thin, easy to miss, but real. The aliens looked closely. Slowly they understood. They packed quickly. What surprised Ethan was how efficient they had become. No arguing, no panic. They moved supplies, reinforced containers, and protected the injured without being told. They had learned. The new location lay closer to a line of tall stone pillars. The area had better airflow and fewer signs of large creatures. Ethan tested the ground, listening to vibrations the way miners once did on Earth. It felt more stable. They rebuilt. While working, Ethan noticed something else. Some of the aliens were trying to copy his movements, his posture, even how he observed the horizon before turning his back. They were learning how humans stayed alive. One of them approached him during a break. She had skin that shimmered softly and eyes that reflected light like glass. "In our culture," she said carefully, "leaders are chosen for knowledge and status." Ethan wiped dirt from his hands. "That sounds reasonable. But you have neither rank nor title," she continued. "Yet we follow you." Ethan paused. "I don't think leadership is something you take," he said. "It happens when people trust you not to leave them behind." She considered that quietly. That afternoon, the planet tested them again. The ground trembled, stronger than before. Not an earthquake, something else. A deep, slow vibration that rolled through the land like a warning. Bird-like creatures rose from distant cliffs all at once. Ethan felt cold. "Inside," he said. "Now." They barely made it into the shelter before the sound arrived. A low roar echoed across the land. It was not close, but it was massive. Fear returned instantly. Several aliens pressed together, their advanced minds struggling with something raw and uncontrollable. One began to cry softly, ashamed but unable to stop. Ethan stood near the entrance, watching the horizon. A shadow moved far away, very far, too big to understand clearly. "That thing," one alien whispered, "it's a territorial guardian." Ethan turned slowly. "You know it?" "Yes, some planets grow them naturally, living defenses. They respond to population growth and energy use." Ethan's jaw tightened. "So the more we survive," he said, "the more likely it comes." Silence followed. That night sleep was difficult. Ethan stayed awake, reinforcing the shelter and adjusting escape paths. He knew something important was coming. The planet was not just dangerous, it was reacting to them. The next day confirmed it. Their water source had changed. The moisture pools were lower and the rock walls felt warmer. Even the plants reacted differently, moving away from human presence. The planet was adapting. Ethan gathered everyone together. "We can't stay passive," he said. "This world is adjusting to us. That means we need to adjust faster." One alien crossed her arms. You speak as if we are at war with the planet. We are, Ethan replied calmly, not by choice, but survival doesn't care about intentions. He divided tasks. Some gathered data, mapping terrain manually. Others focused on food processing and storage. Ethan worked on something else, energy. Using damaged alien tech and human problem-solving, he built a crude but stable power unit. It was inefficient, loud, and ugly. It worked. Light filled the shelter that night. The aliens stared at it in silence. That device violates 5 design principles, one said softly. Ethan smiled faintly. Humans violate a lot of principles. With power came communication attempts. Weak signals were sent into the sky, bouncing off the atmosphere. No response came back. Still, Ethan did not stop. On the 3rd night after the vibration, the Guardian came closer. They felt it before they saw it. The ground shook. Air pressure dropped. The shelter walls vibrated violently. Ethan ordered everyone to the deepest section. Then he did something none of them expected. He went outside. One alien grabbed his arm. "You will die." "Maybe," Ethan replied, "but hiding won't save us." He stepped into the open. The creature was now visible, towering above the stone pillars. Its body was massive, layered with armor-like plates. Its eyes glowed faintly as it scanned the land. Ethan stood still. He activated the power unit at maximum output, redirecting energy into light and sound. The shelter glowed brightly behind him, loud and impossible to ignore. The creature focused on him. Ethan raised his arms again, just as he had with the smaller predator. He did not shout. He stood. The Guardian paused. This was not part of its design. Life was supposed to flee. Ethan took a step forward. The Guardian released a deep sound, vibrating the air painfully. Ethan did not move. Minutes passed like hours. Finally, the creature turned away, retreating slowly back into the distance. When Ethan returned, his legs shook from exhaustion. The alien stared at him with something close to awe. "You faced it alone," one whispered. "No," Ethan said. "I faced it so you wouldn't have to." From that moment on, there was no doubt. He was not just leading them. He was the anchor holding them together. That night, as the strange stars shifted again, the aliens spoke openly among themselves. About fear. About weakness. About what they had never been taught. And about humans. Ethan sat apart, repairing tools, listening but not interfering. He knew the planet was far from finished with them. But he also knew something else. As long as he stood, they would not fall. And the planet was beginning to understand that humans were not easy to remove. The calm did not last. It never did on this planet. 3 days after the Guardian retreated, the air began to change again. It grew heavier, pressing down on the land and on the minds of everyone living there. Even the strange plants moved less, as if they were holding their breath. Ethan felt it the moment he woke. Something was wrong. He checked the power unit first. It was stable, but the energy readings jumped in strange patterns. The ground beneath his boots vibrated faintly, not enough to shake, but enough to warn. He gathered the group. "We're leaving this place today," he said. The aliens looked around in shock. "But the Guardian is gone," one said. "This shelter survived." "That's exactly why we're leaving," Ethan replied. "The planet learned from us here. It knows where we are strong." Some of them hesitated. This shelter had become their first real home since the crash. Leaving it felt like losing safety again. Then the ground cracked. A loud, sharp sound split the air as a long fracture opened just meters from the shelter wall. Dust rose, stones rolled. Panic spread instantly. "Move!" Ethan shouted. They ran. Not in perfect order, not calmly, but together. Behind them, part of the shelter collapsed as the ground sank inward. The power unit sparked and died in a flash of light. The planet had struck back. They did not stop running until their lungs burned. When they finally slowed, the land around them looked worse than before. Rocks were broken. Strange fog rolled across the surface, glowing faintly and stinging the skin. One alien collapsed to her knees. Another screamed when she saw blood on her leg. Ethan rushed to her. A sharp crystal shard had cut deep. The wound burned unnaturally. "Poison," one alien said in fear. "The fog carries it." Ethan acted instantly. He cleaned the wound, ignoring the pain in his own hands as the fog touched his skin. He sealed it tightly and injected a stabilizing compound from a nearly empty medical kit. "She'll live," he said, though he wasn't fully sure. The fog thickened. Staying still meant death. They moved again, slower now, carrying the injured. The terrain became uneven, climbing toward a narrow stone ridge. Then the sound came, a deep, rolling noise beneath the ground. Not the Guardian, something else. The ridge shook violently. Several aliens lost their footing. One slipped and would have fallen into a deep crack if Ethan had not caught her wrist in time. He pulled her up with raw strength, muscles burning. "I can't," she cried. "I'm slowing you down." Ethan looked her directly in the eyes. "No one gets left behind," he said. The sound grew louder. The ground behind them collapsed completely, revealing a massive open pit glowing with unstable energy. Heat rose from it like breath from a giant mouth. The planet was tearing itself open. They reached a narrow canyon just as the land behind them fell away. The canyon walls offered some protection from the fog and heat, but it was not enough. The injured alien's condition worsened. Her breathing slowed. The poison fought the medicine. The aliens gathered around her, fear written on every face. "She will not survive," one said quietly. Ethan knelt beside her. "She will," he said again, his voice firm even as doubt clawed at him. He removed his own suit filter and modified it, pushing clean air directly into her lungs. The move was dangerous. Without the filter, the fog burned his throat and lungs. One alien grabbed him. "You will kill yourself." "Then make it count," Ethan replied hoarsely. Minutes passed. Finally, the alien woman gasped and coughed. Her breathing stabilized. Ethan collapsed backward, coughing violently, eyes burning. Hands caught him before he hit the ground. For the first time, the aliens were the ones holding him up. The planet did not stop. The canyon shook as something massive moved below. Rocks fell from above, crushing supplies. Food containers broke. Water spilled. They were losing everything. Ethan forced himself to stand again, though his vision blurred. "We go deeper," he said. "There's a hollow beneath us." "How do you know?" someone asked. "I don't," he answered honestly, "but the ground sounds different." They climbed downward using bare hands and broken tools. The canyon opened into a wide underground chamber shielded from the chaos above. The shaking weakened, then stopped. Silence returned, heavy and unreal. They were alive, barely. They counted their numbers. Everyone was still there, but they had lost almost all supplies. No power, little food, very little water. Hope wavered. One alien finally spoke what many were thinking. "We cannot survive this," she said. "The planet will destroy us piece by piece." Ethan sat against the cold stone, exhausted beyond words. He looked at them slowly. "Humans survived ice ages," he said. "Plagues, wars, extinction-level events. Not because we were strongest, but because we refused to stop adapting." He stood, despite the pain screaming through his body. "This planet is trying to break us," he continued. "So we learn faster, we change faster, or we die." Something hardened in his eyes. "I'm not done yet." That night, while others rested, Ethan explored the underground chamber alone. He mapped its tunnels, feeling the air, listening to echoes. He found something unexpected, a natural energy flow, not technological, not alive, but usable. By morning, he had a plan. Using broken alien devices, stones, and crude wiring, Ethan created a basic energy stabilizer that fed off the planet's natural flow instead of fighting it. It was risky, but when he activated it, the chamber lights glowed faintly. The aliens watched in stunned silence. "You bonded with the planet," one whispered. "No," Ethan said. "I listened to it." Days passed underground. The planet above calmed, the fog lifted, the ground stabilized. The aliens recovered slowly. They helped rebuild. They learned to work with their hands, to accept discomfort, to face fear without freezing. Ethan, however, grew weaker. The poison damage and exhaustion caught up with him. He hid it well, but his steps slowed, his breath shortened. One night, an alien sat beside him quietly. "You carry us all," she said. "Even now." Ethan smiled faintly. "That's what humans do." "But even anchors break," she replied. Ethan looked at the glowing stone walls. "Then you hold the line when I can't." The aliens exchanged looks. They understood now. This human had not only kept them alive, he had changed them. And when the planet tested them again, as it surely would, they would not face it as helpless survivors. They would face it as something new, a group shaped by human resilience. And somewhere above them, the planet waited, watching, learning, and slowly realizing that the human it tried to break had instead taught others how to stand. Days passed without clear sense of time. The strange light from the stone walls never fully brightened or faded. It only shifted, slow and steady, like a quiet heartbeat. The planet above them no longer shook, but everyone knew it was only resting, not finished. Ethan worked even when his body protested. He moved slower now. His hands trembled when he thought no one was watching. The poison damage had not fully healed, and the long weeks of strain had carved deep lines into his face. Still, every morning he stood up and checked the stabilizer, the tunnels, and the people. The aliens noticed. They began stopping him gently. "Rest," one would say, taking tools from his hands. "We can handle this," another insisted, standing watch so Ethan could sleep. At first he resisted. Then he realized something important. They no longer needed him to do everything. They had learned. The underground energy flow allowed them to grow small patches of edible plants. Water condensed naturally along the deeper walls. Using Ethan's early designs, the aliens improved the systems, adding precision and efficiency he never would have thought of. Human instinct had given them survival. Alien knowledge refined it. Together, they became something stronger. One quiet cycle, the stabilizer began to hum differently. Ethan felt it before the others noticed. He walked closer, placing his hand on the stone. The energy was changing. "It's reacting again," one alien said nervously. Ethan shook his head slowly. "No, this is different." He adjusted a sensor made from broken ship parts and alien lenses. A signal formed, weak, unstable, but real, not from the planet, from the sky. "They heard us," he whispered. Hope rushed through the chamber like a sudden wind. Rescue. The word felt unreal. The signal was faint and broken, but clear enough to confirm one thing. A search vessel had entered the system. They had not given up. They had followed traces of the crash and the strange energy disturbances. The aliens gathered around Ethan, relief and fear mixed together. "What if they cannot land?" one asked. "This planet destroys technology." "They won't land," Ethan replied. "They don't need to." Using the stabilizer, Ethan redirected the energy upward, turning the underground chamber into a beacon. It was dangerous. If the planet reacted badly, it could collapse everything. The aliens hesitated. Ethan met their eyes. "I'll take responsibility," he said quietly. One of them stepped forward. "No," she said. "We will." They adjusted the system together. The beam of energy rose through stone and soil, piercing the surface and reaching into the sky like a silent call. Above them, something answered. The planet reacted, but not with violence. It shifted, adjusted, as if recognizing that resistance was no longer working. Hours later, the sky changed. Light filtered down into the tunnels, clean, artificial light. A rescue vessel hovered far above the surface, using drones and remote fields to extract survivors without touching the ground directly. When the first drone reached the chamber, several aliens cried openly. They were safe. As medical teams began evacuation procedures, Ethan finally allowed himself to sit down. His legs gave out. Alien hands caught him again. This time he did not protest. Doctors worked quickly, stabilizing him, treating the poison damage and exhaustion. As they lifted him onto a medical platform, he looked around at the others. They stood tall, no longer broken, no longer helpless. When the rescue team leader reviewed the situation, disbelief filled her voice. "You kept 20 people alive," she said, "on this planet, alone." Ethan shook his head weakly. "Not alone. The rescue ship never landed. It didn't need to. From orbit, news spread faster than light. The report shocked the galaxy. A single human engineer, young, unranked, and overlooked, had led and protected 20 alien representatives on a planet classified as lethal. Not through force, not through advanced weapons, through endurance, through refusal to abandon others, through adaptation. Political leaders listened carefully as the alien survivors told their story. They spoke of fear, of weakness, of a human who stood between them and extinction again and again, even when escape would have been easier. One alien diplomat spoke plainly. "Our civilizations believed humans were dangerous because they were aggressive," she said. "We were wrong. Humans are dangerous because they endure, and because when they stand, others stand with them." Ethan woke days later in a medical bay. Clean air, soft light, quiet. He felt lighter but older somehow. A representative council visited him. They expected pride. They expected demands. Ethan surprised them. "We didn't survive because I'm special," he said. "We survived because humans don't quit and because they learned to quit being alone a long time ago." He paused, then added, "If you judge humans, judge us by that." The council left changed. So did the galaxy. The planet was reclassified, not as uninhabitable, but as resistant. As for Ethan, he declined promotions and honors. He returned to engineering, to fixing things, to quiet work. But his story spread anyway. Among humans, it became a reminder of who they were. Among aliens, it became a lesson they would never forget. That when everything is stripped away, technology, comfort, certainty, humans do not shine because they are perfect. They shine because they stay standing. And sometimes that is enough to change the fate of worlds.